Now, Keir, you've warned for a long time about Putin's intentions. Why has the West been blind to his perils?
I think largely because so much of what I and colleagues were warning about seemed so incredible, so fantastical to people who thought that we'd already emerged from the eras of despots who would seek to arrive at an imperial ambition, gathering Europe together under their own control. It just seemed that it was something from another period of history, that President Putin's ambition to roll back the clock to the 20th century or even before was so out of place for European statecraft, for European diplomats and leaders, that it just wasn't possible to believe all of the things that President Putin was saying about what he wanted and how he might be prepared to go about getting them. But it's not true that it has been a sudden shift in President Putin's demeanor and in the way in which he's engaging with the outside world. This has been a trend which we've seen over some time. We've looked at both the ways that Russia has moved back towards its hostility towards the outside world and domestically at home, of course, hostility towards its own population as well. The latest moves in Russia's repression of its own subjects are just the end of a long progression where it started clamping down and returning to those Soviet approaches of controlling people, controlling the information they received a long time ago. But put it all together, and yes, it's true that the warnings were there, but you can understand why people didn't listen to them, because it just made no sense.
Is there anybody now with access to Putin who might be able to stop him, or has he become a very isolated man?
Well, that's one of the theories, certainly, that Putin, particularly over the course of the last year and a bit, where COVID, of course, has presented a big problem to Putin's interactions with real people because he has become more and more physically isolated from them, retreating for months at a time to Sochi on the Black Sea, not even being in the Kremlin. There is this strong and persuasive theory that actually, yes, because of that failure to receive any more information about what's happening from the outside world, other than through his trusted circle of inner advisors who only will bring him the things that he actually wants to hear, that he's retreated further and further down the rabbit hole of his own conspiracy theories and into his own slightly disjointed view of how the world works. And that's then what we see being expressed in these actions by President Putin, attacking Ukraine on the basis of a complete fiction about what Ukraine really is. And we have to think back, of course, to his meeting of his own Security Council shortly before the invasion was launched, which was this grotesque parody of a government meeting where ministers and intelligence chiefs were fluffing their lines and being publicly mocked by Putin. And, of course, then afterwards they decided that the recording of that mockery was suitable to be broadcast on state television. But that gave us the indications that there are very few or no people who will actually say no to Putin.